All right, just on Louisville, obviously disappointing loss. You know, our guys battled their tails off, played extremely hard, and you know the disappointment is we had a lead going into the fourth quarter, and we just did not execute down the finish the way you need to beat a top 5, or who knows, maybe they're top 2 or 3 after tonight. But they're a fine and excellent and very talented football team. And against a team like that, you have to execute for 4 quarters. And like I said after the game, you know, at this point in the year, your depth really needs to step up. And I think in some ways, you know, we just kind of got worn down and had some injuries. And you know, we have to be better prepared for those scenarios. So it's a great teaching point, not only to our younger players, but to our guys that are redshirting, that they have to realize that they can be in those roles a year from now and have to start getting themselves ready now. So I was hoping that they'd schedule, like on Wednesday, maybe Alabama or, you know, in between these 2 games. And we weren't able to arrange that with the SEC. So we, you know, coming up, we have again, another one of the very top football programs in the whole country in Clawson. You know, they're just a complete football team. Offensively, obviously great skill with Deshaun Watson and Gallman, and you know their receivers are just incredible players. You know, Mike Williams is back, Artavius Scott, Ray McLeod, you know, Deion Kane. They have just so many skilled players that because of that, you know, it doesn't matter where the ball goes. They feel good about all their targets. You know, their offensive line has always been good. They're a little banged up there, and they're young, but they're still playing at a very high level. But with Clemson, it's always the perimeter skill that just scares you because they have so many guys that are capable of making plays. And their tight end, you know, I would certainly put up there as one of the very best tight ends in the country, Leggett. I mean, he is just outstanding too. So, you know, it's really, with these guys, it's hard to cheat because every single one of them is capable of making a big play. And defensively, they're always one of the best units in the country, and this year is no different. You know, what they are up front, certainly with Watkins and Lawrence. Lawrence, you know, was probably the highest ranked defensive tackle coming out last year. That's accurate, right? And I mean, is playing beyond his years. And, you know, certainly at linebacker they can run. They're young in the secondary. But Dabo and his staff have recruited at such a high level that even with graduation and early departures, this is still one of the most talented teams in the country. And it'll be a great challenge for us. And, you know, 2 years ago we were competitive. Last year at Clemson, this game was not competitive. And, you know, we'll be on national TV again. And you know, our players know and are learning what it takes to win a game like this. So we're going to have a great week of practice and execute at a high level. And but again, we're looking forward to the challenge, and you know, it's not too far away. So, any questions?
One of the traits I think most folks would attribute to your team is resiliency this season. How do you kind of gauge the psyche of the team coming off that disappointing fourth quarter and going ahead, you know, strong right into another top game with maybe somewhat of a depleted roster right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you know, that's a level that we want to aspire to. You know, and I think there's no question that we are an improved football team this year. I think right now of all the Power 5 teams, I think us and Georgia Tech have the most improved in terms of wins so far this year. So we're clearly making a step. But there's 3 teams in our conference, and we have the luxury of getting to play those 3 teams every year that have really been the elite teams in our conference. And that's been Florida State, Louisville, and now Clemson. And you can make an argument for any one of those teams. And so, you know, my thing is that if we aspire to get to this level, this is the only way to do it, is that we have to play these people, and that's what they have to do. They're elite because they've got to show up every week and play. And elite programs and elite teams have to do that. You know, you don't control the schedule, but, you know, we knew going into the season that, you know, these 2 games back-to-back would be challenges. And again, we've had 10 games this year. We've been in every game. We've been in every game in the fourth quarter with a chance to win it. And, you know, I expect us to be in that same position, but to be in that position, boy, we're going to have to play really well.
To that end, the Duke win was a hell of a win. You go beat Duke, that's a great win. You go beat Indiana and Indiana, those are nice wins.
Mhm.
But you haven't had the signature win yet, where the whole country stops and goes, man, Wake beat Louisville, Wake beat Clemson. How important is that step to your program?
I mean, it's every win's important for our program, Dan. And the thing about the signature win is a week later, that one doesn't feel like a signature win.
Well,
Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, you'll get that praise, but it only has meaning if it's carried through.
Right.
You know, there's, teams that beat teams early in the year, and that becomes the signature win as you look back on it, and maybe it wasn't as good as it looked. So, this would be, I told the team, I said, listen, you guys battled your butt off, and you had everybody in the country turning their TVs to see the fourth quarter of a Wake Forest football game, and we didn't finish the deal. And why didn't we finish it? And what can we learn from that? And I think the lesson that is the takeaway from that game is to beat a team of that caliber or of this caliber, you have to execute for 4 quarters. If there's any let up, a team like that makes you pay instantly and dearly. And the second thing is your depth has to get ready. It's a game that we're down, 2 starting O-linemen. So, on offense, it felt like last year. We had no seniors and 2 juniors. And we had 9 freshmen and sophomores playing. And, those guys, and some of those guys that went through those growing pains last year as freshmen were much better ready for it as sophomores. But then some of those young guys went through the growing pains again. And I've said, I don't know, Dan, if the words young and good will ever go hand in hand here. And, we are still building our depth. We are still building our program. I'm really proud of how hard our guys played. I mean, I told our team, you guys gave us everything you had from an effort standpoint. I thought our defensive line played their hearts out. I mean, some of the effort plays that Josh Banks was making, and Duke, and Chris Stewart, and Willie Yarberry had maybe his best game, and Markel Lee shows up in every game. And Brad Watson, I thought, played a heck of a game. And I thought in the first half, that was the best we had ever run the football against an elite defense. And we had almost 200 yards at the half, and how many yards rushing? But then in the second half, we wore down. It's like we worked so hard to get in that position, and we weren't able to finish. And again, that is the next step. And maybe, that type of game and that type of effort can, win 3 or 4 times on our schedule. But it's not going to do it against the elite teams, and they're an elite team. And this is an elite team. So, nothing's going to be easy. We're going to have to go in there and battle for every first down and battle for every third down stop. But I do love the heart of our team. I think our kids love football. And the thing I liked about that locker room after the game is that was a wounded locker room. That was sometimes when we've had those games, Dan, I don't know if our kids really thought they could win. And that game, they were hurting. And to me, that's a real positive sign for our program that, they went on the road to play an elite team as a whatever 35-point underdog, and those kids were heartbroken they didn't win. And, so we're past the moral victory stage in our program, which I think is a major step. Now, that next step is winning one of these games. And in that regard, you're right. We haven't beat a nationally ranked top 10 team yet. And lucky us, we get another opportunity this week.
There you go.
As a coach, does it bother you at all that Clemson's coming off their first loss?
Again, you control the things you can control. I think there's no doubt the players in our program would have loved to have them come in here undefeated. But we know Clemson is playing for the ACC championship this week. If they win this game, they're the Atlantic Division champs. So this will be a highly motivated team. And, I've coached championship teams before that sometimes a loss like that is maybe the wake-up call you needed. So I'm sure they'll be ready to go, and they know they have to be at their best to accomplish their goals. That's the one hiccup that they're allowed with our current system.
How much are you missing your team, Dave? You didn't really have your full team out there the other day. You haven't had for the last couple.
No, other than the starting quarterback, which is always a big deal.
You mentioned that.
We had stayed relatively healthy, and it comes in waves. We were down 3 of our top 4 safeties for that game. And for our defense to play as well as they did with who we were missing, and what happens, Dan, is sometimes when one group is down, another group has to pick them up. And I thought that's what happened. I mean, we were thin in the secondary, and we didn't have some of our best players. But we had guys step up, and our defensive line stepped up. I mean, those guys just played their butts off. I mean, just the effort and intensity. I just, again, when you win, it's not all good, and when you lose, it's not all bad. And I just thought our defensive line played so hard. We won more one-on-ones and more individual battles than we ever have against a team of that caliber. And offensively, it's very frustrating that we can't score touchdowns in the red zone. We moved the football. The first 4 or 5 drives were all 6, 8, 12-play drives. We converted third downs. The time of possession at the end of the first half was like 21-9 or 22-8. That was the plan. And for 30 minutes, we executed it perfect. And we just didn't finish. And, it comes down in the red zone, you have to win one-on-ones. A back's got to make a safety miss. A receiver's got to get open against press coverage. And that's where against the better teams, the best teams we've played, we've struggled. Right now, you'd never believe it. We're one of the top 3 red zone offenses in the conference. But against the Florida States and against the Louisvilles and those type of games, we haven't scored touchdowns. And in other games we have. And to move the ball between the 20s and get down there and settle for field goals, in my mind, that game could have been 28-3 at the half. And, it's not the plays we run. We're running the same plays, but we got down there, we miss a back block. We lose a down block. The back bounces a cut instead of keeping it north and south. I think sometimes guys are trying so hard, they're going outside the design of the play. And good football teams can't do that. They've got to trust the plan and stick with it. So a lot of good teachable moments from that film.
Saw Harrison Hayworth out there. They look like they could probably go. Do you think you get either one of your safeties back?
I don't know. I mean, Javion definitely not, and Cam Glenn is wait and see. Javion we're hoping we'll have back for BC. I think he's definitely out this week.
And Jabari looked like he.
Jabari looks better. Honestly, Dan, I thought we'd have him last week. So, Tuesday he was a little rough, and Wednesday he didn't feel it. And it's the same injury he had earlier in the year. So he looked different today and looked healthy. So that'll help.
And your quarterback didn't do much today. Is there any question about him?
Oh, we're just a little sore, and hopefully we'll get him out there tomorrow. All right, thank you.